All right, babes. So this is the last and final part of the evolution of culture, and I'm calling it collective individualism, which means like when a whole bunch of individuals come together and it does something collective, even though they don't have a collective identity and they're not trying to like from the top down do something collective. Because I realized that a lot of what I'm reacting to when people say culture, when they say community, is this sort of rejuvenation of this value of collectivism. And this is understandable. And of course, I've had my own flirtations with things like communism and communalism and socialism and democratic socialism and anarchic socialism and all that other jazz, because it's very attractive to think like, oh my God, I bet if we all just came together and we just said what we see as our vision for the future world, we would have something very similar in mind. We would have this world where people have access to clean water and education, and there are children laughing, and the earth is healthy, and there's health care available for everybody. And you can kind of do these dream weaving with people, and it's very seductive to believe that that means that we all have the same vision. It's very seductive to believe that that means that we can all come together and create this same vision. But here's the thing, because even while we might have the same feeling or image in our head when we think of global peace or when we think of a harmonious world, as soon as you scratch beneath the surface of this collective vision, you encounter an insane amount of specificity. And this specificity might be the most important part about us, because as soon as you get into the day-to-day reality of living and organizing and being in relationship with other people, everything is specificity. From the moment we start working with each other, we can see that we all have very different ways of behaving, of living, of believing that we attain that vision. And if we're coming together under the pretense that we're all the same, because we all share a collective vision, because we all have similar values, even if we believe that we all have similar ideas of how to get there, from the moment we come together, our differences will emerge. And then because the nature of a group is inherently to create who is a member and who is not a member, when dissent and difference emerge, which they inevitably will, the reflex will become suppression, conformity, and shaming. And this will happen most likely within individual people just as much as it happens within the interpersonal dynamics of the group and within that group's relationship to the external world. And there are a million strategies to do this, from, subtle gossip to the KGB. Look at every group that has ever existed in history and every attempt towards collectivism that has ever come forward, and how they have dealt with difference and dissent within their own internal organization. Not that they have been failures. In fact, many have been greatly successful. But what I'm pointing to is that the nature of their success hinges on how they deal with difference, dissent, and individuation from the members of the group towards the group when it comes up. And that it's our orientation and our agreements about the relationship between the individuals and the group that set up how this is going to happen from the onset and from every moment that follows. If we shift our stated orientation from collectivism to collective individualism, if we create the membrane around the individuals themselves that can then form almost like a rhizomatic or mycelial web, a network, then the potentials unfurl differently. And all of the best groups I've ever been a part of have been that way, have been a natural coming together of individuals, have been almost like a group of friends where we understand that each one of us is different, even when we're coming together for shared goals and stated purposes. And it's only when I've tried to do something with a group of people where we create this common identity and we're all in for the cause and we're like really gonna do something that these dynamics creep in, usually painfully and violently. And beyond the practicality of this reorientation, which I am 100% behind, what's happening right now to individuals within the Gaian quantum computer is fucking fascinating. When we break down the membrane of consciousness to the individual scale, I mean, I sincerely look around and I am blown away. First of all, there's just a tremendous next level of complexity happening. It's like if you look at this complexity of a matrix of factors that come together, if you don't like the matrix, maybe like nodes in Indrira's web or something like that, and it comes together with the birth of an individual human being, it's almost like the absolute specificity of all their nature, of all their nurture, of all their personal history, of all of their histories of their ancestors, of all of the histories in the place where they grew up, come together in this tremendous confluence of this one person, compounded by everything they ever experienced in their life, all of the like information they've ever heard and received, and talking to people and watching movies and eaten and seen, and my God, it like all comes together into this beautiful, like what I'm seeing in my mind is almost like if it was a piece of coal, the immense pressure of all of these experiences of space and time and happening compress and compress at the level of this individual and turns them into this gorgeous diamond. And then we have this wild phenomenon right now, like I'm on this island in Thailand and everyone here is documenting their life. Everyone is walking around with this selfie stick and taking pictures and recording music videos, and there's this tremendous urge from all pockets of the human mind, from all corners of the globe, to externalize our experience and to upload it through the technological means of sharing information. Almost like the individual part of the process of accelerating this coal to diamond journey involves this feedback loop that's created by them expressing themselves through technology, right? Because it's all technology, even papers and pens, baby, even languages and alphabets, right? Expressing themselves through this technology, being able to see this image of themselves that then feeds back, and then they express more of themselves, and it feeds back, and they express more of themselves, and it accelerates the pace of the individual coming into being as an individual, and at the same time externalizes all of the ways that they're choosing to share their experience into this collective neurological network that we've created through technology itself. So that technology is now creating this nervous system of the planet through human beings uploading the information of the vast diversity of their experience, and that this expression now, this medium, this information, if you will, is now covering the globe. This is the weaving together of the human psyche into a collective consciousness that we actually all have access to. And it's not happening because we have an idea to do this. And in fact, it's a disservice if we try to homogenize, right? Like if you had a whole body, and I sincerely believe that what's happening right now is that the planet is coming to experience itself as a single creature, and that we are part of that journey. But what it takes at the same time as we sort of like feel into the oneness is to feel into the uniqueness, and that you wouldn't want your whole body to be one liver, right? Like part of the diversification and complexification and intricate evolution happening comes from the full permissioning to be as individualistic as possible, to share that confluence at the matrix of nature and nurture that has emerged into the diamond of each one of us. so that then we can become an intelligent and differentiated organism. We can become even more complex, even more capable and refined. We can have liver, we can have all kinds of organs and all kinds of biological systems happening, so that our individual coming into being is the planetary coming into being. And there is no greater time to be an individual, because the dialectical pattern that we talked about in the beginning, where you have one thing, it creates a polarity, and they merge together to birth a third thing that then attracts its polarity, and then they merge together to create another thing, is how fractals move. Fractals are reiterating patterns on different scales, and they're living creatures. So at the same time that things are becoming more and more specified, right, that biological species become more and more diverse, that you get cats and then different kinds of cats and then nuanced different kinds of cats and then who knows what. This is what's happening across all areas of consciousness. You have physics, and then you have astronomy, and then you have astrophysics, and then you have like all of these different specializations until you have two people who are theoretically biologists, but one studies spiders and one studies gene mutation in pomelos, and these people can't even talk to each other because dialectics have complexified the fractal into these reiterating patterns of exploring different potentials in consciousness through these polarization birthing cycles that nonetheless maintain a similar pattern. Like a tree has trunk, has branches, has leaves, and the leaves have a trunk and have branches and have leaves, and then leaves sprout little leaves, and those sprout little branches, and those sprout little trunks, and you go the other way too, right? Where like trees are almost like the leaves of the greater living tree of a forest or something like that. So at the same time that these fractal patterns, dialectics are moving them smaller and smaller, it's also happening on every scale in existence, so that as we do individuate, it's not like the oneness or the coming into being of the planetary body suffers. It's in fact enhanced, because we're becoming better sensors at experiencing ourselves as nested within these different ecologies. The ecology of a human being, of a family, of a group, of a place, of a country, of a continent, of humanity, of life on Earth, of the Earth itself. And the oneness will come naturally, the way that we see that it is coming naturally through, I mean, for me, everything around us, but like, since we're talking about it, the internet, right? No one asked for people to all be the same on the internet, and yet it's brought us all together to understand that we're one more than anything else ever has. And it's brought us together in an active weaving, an active creation of a thing that allows us to, in fact, engage as if we are all part of the same system. And being a part of the same system doesn't mean being the same or having the same stated intention. But that if we allow ourselves to be ourselves, and if we allow consciousness to complexify the way it already is, the way that the membrane has already come to wrap around the individual self, to wrap around the individuated being, then we can trust nature happening and take this great opportunity that happens when a membrane is created around anything. If we're able to hold the multiplicity and the simultaneity of these things, and we're able to put a membrane around ourselves, then it allows us an even deeper access into what it is that we're carrying around within us. We get to polarize even within ourselves to find the different roles that exist within. You know, then you get to say things like, well, I have one part of me that thinks this, and I have another part of me that feels that, because that's the truth of the way that at least I fucking experience myself. You know, sometimes this, sometimes that, sometimes there's that voice. And of course, if I need to like have an identity, then I'm gonna choose what feels the safest. But in my deep moments of true exploration and excavation of what the fuck I'm carrying around inside me, it's very, very important for me to be able to explore those different voices. It's very, very important to get beneath a solid identity that would come with being an individual that would then enforce its own suppression, conformity, and subtle shaming. And of course, this is the way that we live most of our lives, right? It's like, this is how I am, this is how I am, this is how I am. Nope, I'm not like that, I'm not like that, I'm not like that. So my hope is, like, what it means to be a real individual is that you get an opportunity to explore that, right? Am I gay? I don't know. Let's try it out. Can I push myself enough to where, even though I identify as someone who doesn't like getting mad at people, I can feel okay getting fucking mad at someone? Even though I know I want the best thing for the refugees and I have a lot of other things to say about that, I also need to engage the part of myself that says, you know, maybe there's something to this idea of not wanting refugees to come into the country, and to be able to have that conversation so that in that same fractal pattern, I am not enforcing the same sort of like group dynamic of suppression, conformity, and subtle shaming onto the internal group that is now coming into consciousness within myself because I've put a membrane around it, right? And instead it's like we get to make that choice of how we're going to deal with difference and dissent when it comes up inside the internal group. And dude, there is so much karmic shit and patterning and like old crap and survival strategies that we're carrying around inside of us that are in dire need of excavation. And we can turn our focus towards collectivism and keep trying to work it out through projection and reflection in relationship, which I'm sure will all happen anyway, through ongoing cycles of illusion and disillusionment, of feeling like we're a part of something and have this collective identity and then needing to differentiate from it, which I'm sure will all happen anyway. Or we can do ourselves all a favor and embark on this most sacred, most crucial, most timely journey to go within and to give ourselves the opportunity to find out who we really are, what we really like, what we enjoy, how we want to live, what genuinely feels good to us, free from the pressures of having to self-enforce the pressures of a collectivist framework. So yeah, love yourself, get to know yourself, get to know even that part of you that's way different than any idea that you have about yourself. And so, dumb teenagers are already on it. And yay, thank you so much. That's it. That's number 5, part 5. We finished this epic rant. I so appreciate anybody and everybody who is watching this, for fuck's sake. I absolutely love you guys so much. And I cannot even tell you how great it is for me to be able to just like share and to put it out into the world. So thank you. Thank you. Part 5, babies. We did it. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Mariah Karina Show. Mariah Karina Show.